welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have with us Eric Woodard. He is a founder of Win at Work and is a leadership and career coach, helps professionals get hired fast, grow their careers, and succeed in leadership. So we learn from him about the top mistakes that keep professionals stuck, the frameworks for turning interviews into offers, and how to shift from being a passive applicant to a strategic player in your field. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Hey, Ajay, it's so nice to be here. And thank you for all the work you do to help so many people learn to do amazing things. It's really inspiring.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Eric. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about winning at work. A lot of people need all that advice from you, from experts like you in their career as well as leadership and in doing what they are doing. So we'll talk about all this, Eric. But before that, let's talk a bit about your journey, your background, so that the audience knows who they are listening to.
Absolutely. Well, I'm kind of a weirdo. I've been to India, and I actually grew up in Thailand. I was born in the U.S., but I grew up in Thailand. I didn't come to the U.S. till I was about 18. I transferred college a bunch of times. Wound up as a scuba instructor on the island of Guam, out in the Pacific, and I was diving and trying to get my career together, and didn't really know what I was doing. Eventually, I wrote a letter to the White House and told the president, this was years ago, told the president to hire me. Worst letter you've ever seen, Ajay. And one thing led to another, and I wound up getting a White House internship. And this is back during the Clinton administration. So this was a long time ago. I went to work for Hillary Rodham Clinton. She was a great boss. And one other thing led to another, and I wound up working at the White House and in the U.S. here at our the U.S. Senate and the State Department. Eventually wound up at the Smithsonian Institution, working with all sorts of professionals, all different stripes, industries, levels. And about 5 or 6 years ago, I convinced my beautiful, smart wife to let me go and start my own practice with helping people figure out work stuff. And so that's where I am today. And my kids aren't starving yet, Ajay. So that's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Absolutely, absolutely, Eric. So it's not only about you, you are also doing a lot of people work for a lot of people so that they also can bring the best food to their tables. So we'll talk about that. And that is where you are helping winning them at work. So we'll talk about all that. But, I want to understand first the atmosphere itself. We talk about the resume that you sent to the White House at that point in time.
Yeah.
In today's time, will that resume work, or is it only for the White House? In the real world, workplaces are a different game altogether.
Yeah, it's a great question. And, and I really didn't, back many, many years ago when I was a young man, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just kind of got lucky. And there were a few things that I did then that I think can really serve people today. And what I find is a lot of people, if you look at a cover letter or a resume, it's all about the person applying. Me. And of course, if we want to be influential with a person or organization, the first thing we're going to talk about is not ourselves. It's not us. It's about them. It's about the client, the constituent, the customer, the shareholder. So the opportunity for anybody trying to get ahead in the workplace, whether it's getting the job or advancing in the one that one has, is just really focus on them. A good resume is not about you. A good resume is about them. Good cover letter is not about you. It's about them. Make it about them. And I think if and when one is willing and able to do that, like, miracles can unfold.
Miracles can unfold, but then a lot of mistakes get made. So I want to understand in terms of the common job search mistakes, or the mistakes that a lot of professionals make during a job search, and how they can get hired fast or advance their careers.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people, there's so much out here. And look, I'm a fan of AI, right? I think It's a modern miracle. And so many people spend a lot of time trying to trick AI. Well, we got to trick the algorithm when we apply, right? Everybody knows so much about job searching. And my experience and the experience of a lot of my clients is the thing that really works best is the thing that's worked for the last couple of thousand years. And that's connection. The great news is let all of our competitors jump through all the hoops of trying to jump through the AI and get through the algorithms. Let them be the ones that are busy selling themselves and all of that. And if we're the ones that can rely on human connection, that means anything. Ajay, I have a question for you and for your listeners, right? And
Of course.
So what do you think the one reason is that somebody will hire us? There's only one reason. What do you think it is?
It's the same every place, Eric. My thing is that organizations want you to solve their problems. They solve your money problems, aspiration problems,
Yeah.
purpose problem, whatever it is you who has to solve their problem. Even
That's
when you
right.
are hiring a vendor, anyone you are bringing into your thing, you are looking at solving some problem in one way or the other. That's what my immediate thought comes.
No, you're 100% right. And the distinction is, how often have we seen somebody get hired who actually is like a disaster and they get hired? Like they don't know what the hell they're doing and they get hired. How often do we see somebody who's really good not get hired? And so what I would offer your listeners is the reason somebody gets hired is not their skills. It's not their experience. It's not even if the employer likes them. It's if the employer trusts them. And to your point, it's that specifically they trust that applicant, one, understands them, and two, can help them do the thing that they need done. It's not whether they can do it, it's whether they trust that they can do it. So this is a game of trust, and trust is built through vulnerability. It's built through connection. And so what a lot of people do is applicants is they spend a lot of time trying to look good. Hey, look at me, look how good I am. And it doesn't work, because that's not how trust is built. Trust is built through commonalities and vulnerability. And if and when people can wrap their minds around that, they'll have more job offers than they can shake a stick at.
Absolutely. So, Eric, talking of trust, how would you want people to understand trust as well as reliability? Means I can be a very trustworthy person, but my mind does not goes on at the time it is needed. Where will I? So which will win? My reliability of firing on all cylinders at the right time wins, or my trustworthiness that person will not bankrupt the company I'm working for?
It's always trust. Here in the States, you may be familiar with Navy SEALs, right? These are our guys, our special forces guys. Apparently when they do, Navy SEAL training is very rigorous. But when they evaluate Navy SEALs, they evaluate them on two metrics. One, their level of trustworthiness, and two, their ability to swim and, fight and climb and, be a Navy SEAL. And if somebody has like a high score in terms of their ability to, swim and, fight and all that kind of stuff, and they have a lower score in terms of trust, they get kicked out. If they have a high score of trust and even a so-so score of being able to be a Navy SEAL, they get in. And so it's always trust. It's always trust. And so a great way when one is, and frankly, it's not just getting hired, right? People date people they trust. They buy from people they trust. And sure, some of this is a little bit cultural, right? It's going to vary wherever we are in the world. And I would argue, regardless of where we are, it's always trust. It's not about looking good. And so if in one, I promise I'll cut this short, but like my dream interview is I wear a really nice suit, right? And I go into an interview and they say, "Are you ready for the interview?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not. I got to do something first." And they're like, "What?" And there's a glass of water there. And I take the water and I pour it over my head. And now they're sort of concerned. They're like, "Why the hell did you do that?" I say, "Oh, I'm sorry. Let me explain. I poured the water over my head as a reminder that I am not here to look good for you. I'm not here to please you. I'm here to serve. Now we can do the interview." Now, Jay, either one of two things would happen. They'd either kick your rear end out for getting their conference room floor wet, or they'd hire you on the spot, if for no other reason to have the story. So that's kind of what we're talking about here.
Absolutely. So let me bring the conversation to you itself. How do you keep your differentiator alive in today's market? Because as
Yeah.
someone who is a coach and founder at Win at Work, everybody says that they are the best. They provide, whatever services in the. How do you differentiate yourself in a market that too
Right.
operating from Thailand?
Yeah. Well, you're right. Everybody is walking around saying they're the best. So don't do that. So if somebody asked me, why are you the best person for this job? My answer would be, I have no idea if I'm the best person for this job. How could I? I don't know your company as well as you do, and I don't know who else you're talking to. And here's what I do know. You care about this and this and this and this. I have a history of success with this. So am I the best person? I have no flipping idea. See, that's authentic. And so let everybody walk around and say they're the best, right? Whereas I have no idea if and see, that's authentic. And the good news is if and when one wants to stand out, give answers like that, and that makes the difference. I'll say one other thing. A lot of people are worried about, quote, the economy. And I would humbly suggest that job searching is not a macroeconomic activity. I'm not applying to an economy. I'm not applying to an industry. I may not even be applying to an organization. I'm applying to the person in front of me. They're trying to figure out something. They're drowning. They need help. And so I don't have to convince an economy. I don't have to serve an industry. I just have to focus on serving that one person who's making the hiring decision because they're drowning. So I don't have to worry about the economy because this is not a macroeconomic thing. It's a microeconomic thing.
Absolutely, absolutely, Eric. So let's talk about job search first.
Sure.
What is job search in today's time? Is it online? Is it offline? Is it near my place? Is it,
Yeah.
in another part of the world, remote working, home, hybrid
Sure.
working, going to a workplace? What is job search first?
Yeah, well, in many ways it's changing, and in other ways it's the same as it's always been. But I would, when I work with clients, the thing that really moves the needle the most is understanding that it's possible somebody's going to apply online and that's going to get through and they get an interview. I mean, it's possible, and the chances are much, much greater, especially the further along in our career that we are, that the person who's going to help you get your next job is in your last 200 emails or Slack messages or whatever you use, right? So it's like, what a lot of people do when they're on the job hunt is they put on a cloak of invisibility. And a lot of times I'll ask people, I'll be like, well, so let's say somebody's 40 years old, and I'll be like, well, how many people do you know in the world? And they'll sort of sheepishly say, well, maybe 100. I'm like, are you insane? You've been alive for 4 decades. You know thousands of people. Well, but only so many of them can help me. And see, that's the mistake, is we assume who people know. And so the opportunity instead is to have a system for filtering the ocean of one's network. What a lot of people do is it's like they have a fishing line and they got to get the right bait on the right fish at the right depth at the right time. I don't know about you, but that takes a lot of luck, right? So we want to have instead is a system to filter the ocean. And then we don't have to worry where the jobs are. And people like helping people, by the way. It feels good. And some people are all worried that it makes me look weak. Nah, asking for help doesn't make you look weak. When people ask for help, it's a gift. And so when I work with people, that's some of the stuff we work on, and they get hired real damn fast.
Absolutely. But the question still remains, where does a person start their job search? Is it only on LinkedIn, or is it much more beyond that? If you can tell a few steps for someone who is looking for a job right now, either for just a job or for career advancement.
Sure.
How does that work?
Yeah. And so there are like a lot of different sites, right? And so LinkedIn's one of them. I'm not a fan of people applying through LinkedIn just because the back end of LinkedIn is kind of a disaster, as a, from the recruiter side. But LinkedIn or things like Indeed.com or even Google Jobs, they're great to identify opportunities. And sometimes there's regional websites that specialize in certain regions or certain industries. Those are all fine. Then the opportunity is to apply through the organization's portal, because those are the ones they often give priority to. And the other thing is sometimes the aggregators will have up listings and they'll keep them up, or the person that posted them will forget to take them down. They're just sort of like zombie listings that nobody ever checks. So you're going to apply through the portal. And, where are they located? I mean, you can find some jobs that way, but the other thing is there's a lot of jobs that, what is the statistic? Like 70% of jobs are never even listed. And that's where you're going to let people in your network know, hey, Ajay's open for business. And there's a good chance that the jobs that are, one, the best fit, and two, have the less competition are the ones that are never even listed, because you're coming in with that social proof. And of course, the other thing in terms of finding jobs is to create your own. And that can look like starting your own business, like somebody like me, or it's building a relationship with an employer where, they get to a point where they're like, we're not worried about filling a position. We just want that person to work here. And that's a little bit more of a longer game, but I would say those are three ways to find the job.
Absolutely, Eric. So I apply for a job,
Mm-hmm.
and then I sit back and wait for that divine moment when the
Well, good.
response will come for an interview.
Uh,
Is that the right strategy?
no,
Passive
it's
waiting.
it's
What
not.
should one do after that?
Well, that's what a lot of people do. And I love the way you described it, Ajay, right? That's what a lot of people do. They apply and they're like, well, hope I hear back on that one. You don't want to do that, right? And not only that, the funny thing is they'll even have something on their resume that says that I really know how to take initiative, right? And then they don't take initiative. People believe what we show them more than what we tell them. So the opportunity is to apply, and then you're going to follow up. And the last thing you're going to want to do when you follow up is write something like, hey, I'm really interested in your job. I just wanted to check in, because that's all about me. The opportunity instead is, when we follow up, is to make it all about them, right? To give them acknowledgement, to give them value. And don't do it if you can, do it where they live. I mean, some people live on LinkedIn, but a lot of people live on email, or they live, they get messages in through other means. And so you're going to want to bear that in mind. And you're also want to communicate in a way they cannot ignore. So be different than your competitors, right? Be the most Ajay communicator that you can be. That's the opportunity. And don't just follow up once, follow up 2 or 3 times. The opportunity is to be willing to offend in the name of service. Then remember, this is not about you looking good. It's not about you pleasing them. It's about building trust. And trust is often built through the person who's willing to take a stand. Even if I tell them to go away, they're like, nope, I'm more interested in serving you than pleasing you. That's what gets employers' attention.
Absolutely. Now let's look at the employer's side.
Sure.
Where are these companies who need real good candidates? Where are they doing candidate search in today's time?
Yeah, well, it varies. And a lot of times, so employers can use either internal recruiters or external recruiters, right? It both exist. And a lot of times they kind of don't know what they're doing, right? Because they have different systems. What they're basically interested in is finding a narrow group of people that they can pass on to a hiring manager, right? And to do that in the most efficient, cost-effective, painless way possible. So, but their goal is often not to find the best person, believe it or not. Their goal is to find the person who's going to get through the process the easiest. And so sometimes that's where recruiters and hiring managers can be different. And because the recruiter is just interested in how many people can I get hired, whereas the hiring manager is like, I want to find the person that can help me. So very often what I'll do with my clients is they'll get those automated rejection letters, and we just ignore them. Because if they can connect with the hiring manager will knock on the back door of HR and be like, I want to talk to Ajay. So to answer your question about what they're looking for, it depends on what part of the employer you're looking at, right? They tend to be looking at different things. And so the opportunity is to not be like everybody else, right? It's sort of like baby birds in the nest, right? The one that squeaks the loudest, or what is it? A squeaky wheel is the one that gets all the attention. You don't want to be modest in your job search, right? You want to be bold. And a lot of people feel weird about being bold because they're making it all about themselves. So if we combine being bold with making it all about them, then this all becomes much easier. And then it's much easier for employers to see us and simultaneously feel seen, heard, and understood, because we're not making it all about ourselves. We're making it about that employer.
Right. So for employers, are they only looking at places like LinkedIn, Indeed, or through recruiters,
Yeah.
external consultants, or are there other places where they are looking and
Yeah.
candidates are not?
It really varies. I mean, every employer is different. The one thing that I will say sort of trumps everything is if and when a recruiter has somebody from within the company say, I want to talk to this person. That circumvents all of that other stuff. It circumvents the Indeed and the LinkedIn and the portal and the ATI. It just circumvents that. So that's really the opportunity. And that's universal, right? If somebody from within that organization or somebody that is, that recruiter knows, gets somebody referred, they're going to give priority to that. And that's true for everything, right? If somebody recommends a brand to me, I'm going to do that, right? Like if somebody says, hey, you should have Eric on your podcast, there's a chance that, like you're going to choose me as a guest, right? So that's universal. And that's really the only one thing I know that works everywhere, and it works the best. So the opportunities just go to that.
Absolutely. So in today's time, what are the biggest challenges that candidates are facing? What are the biggest challenges
Yeah.
that companies are facing to find the right candidate?
Yeah. Great question, Ajay. So I would say on the candidate side, the biggest one, and Ajay sees me on camera. If you're listening, you won't see it. I'm pointing to my head, is mindset. Because you can have the best resume and cover letter and follow up and interview. And if one's mindset is messed up, right? If I'm not, because if the one reason they're going to hire us is they trust us, and they're looking at my stuff, and then they're not going to hire me. So the opportunity is to from a mindset point of view, to realize that, that we're safe so that we can give that safety to an employer. That's the main thing for job candidates. For employers, their main barrier is they're kind of a mess generally, is my experience. Like they get tons of applicants. They kind of, don't have the expertise to really suss out who the best person is, that the hiring manager. So, it's kind of random that like their systems aren't super good, is my experience. And I'm biased about this, but I've only helped a couple thousand people get hired. Right. But their biggest challenge is they walk around like they have these systems, and for legal reasons, they sort of pretend like these systems are fair. And my experience is it's all blue smoke and mirrors. They talk a big game about we make data-driven decisions. No, they don't. And the bigger and more famous the company, the more rampant this is my experience. But I could be wrong. I don't think I am.
Absolutely. How much companies are open to remote work? When a person is applying to companies, should they mention that they would want to explore remote work first, work from home first, hybrid workforce first, or should they say that they are available to work from office? Because if hiring managers will look at that thing very clearly. Same for companies. What is the best strategy
Great question.
here?
Yeah. Well, and the other version of this is like salary, right? Like if we paid you $1 to work in, Kathmandu, the answer is always because really, at least a recruiter, all they're doing is they're like, hey, I'm nervous. I'm nervous that you're going to be hard for me. We might put you all the way down the pipeline, and then there'll be some issue with your work schedule or your work location or your pay. So the answer at that stage is always absolutely. Right. And absolutely. Is it possible that you work 80 hours a week from, Inner Mongolia? Absolutely. That's possible, because it is. Right. We could come up with a scenario where they could pay me $1 a year to work in, Siberia. That is absolutely possible. Now, it might be a little far-fetched, but it's possible. And what we want to do is wait until they give us an offer. And that's the point where we can start. They've already fallen in love with us. They're already measuring the curtains of my virtual office, right? That's the point where we can say, hey, you want me to do this and this and this and this and this and this, and you want the best person. How can I do this for $1 a year working in Siberia? And then we can co-create a solution. What a lot of applicants do is they do that stuff way too early, right? They're already asking if the other person wants to have kids and get married on the first date. We don't want to do that, right? We want to get to know them first. So that's what I would say.
Absolutely. About, transitions, especially, people who are, say, 35 plus or 40 plus.
Yeah.
Many a times, the job market is such that you feel that you are lucky to be still employed. People start not thinking of risk. Many people think of entrepreneurship. Many people want to make those transitions which can advance their career.
Yeah.
At that point in time, how should, and especially, you will not, it is not necessary that you will get that sort of a advancement in your own industry, changing another industry, maybe very unrelated field that you are in. How should people, especially in this age bracket, when there are more expenses and more concerns, whether the employer will even need you in these times of artificial intelligence, how should you approach this whole transition thing? What is your best advice here?
Yeah, well, it's a great question, and Ajay, you may be. Are you familiar with the Japanese idea of ikigai? Do you know what I mean by that?
Yes,
ikigai?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for those of you who don't know, ikigai, you can think of a Venn diagram, 4 circles, which are what do I want, what does the world need, what can I get paid for, and what am I good at? And what a lot of people do is they focus on some of those circles. A lot of people will focus on what do I want, then they'll probably focus on what can I get paid for. Right. And then they focus less on what am I good at and what does the world need. And so my invitation in this situation, like you're talking about, is instead of focus on what do I want and what can I get paid for, is to flip it and to focus more on what does the world need and what am I good at. And my experience is if and when people really focus on those parts of the those parts of the system, whether it's doing something on one's own or working for a company, we're all working for somebody, right? Like we're either working for clients or our boss. So everybody's working for somebody. Is that problem tends to resolve itself. Because look, I don't know about you guys, but from where I sit, the world is in need right now. The world is in need. So the only question is figuring out like, where is there possibility and how can I help people manifest that possibility? As long as we focus on that, whether it's as an entrepreneur, whether it's as a 25-year-old or a 65-year-old, my experience is it tends to work out and people tend to have a lot of prosperity because service is always, I'm stealing this from one of my coaches, a guy named Steve Chandler, service is always rewarded. It may not be direct, but it's karma, right? Like service always comes back to us is my belief.
Absolutely. And talking about you then, at work, who are your best clients in the sense, who is your best client in terms of either a candidate or a organization? How do you help them on the ground?
It's great, Ajay, and thank you for asking. Some people will say we help, vice presidents or we help engineers or we help artists. My experience when it comes to job searching is everybody's different. And I can have 2 rocket scientists in a room and they both have extremely different issues. And I can have a rocket scientist and an art historian and they're the same. So we help everybody, which I know is sort of heresy when it comes to marketing, right? Like you got to have a niche. Nah, our niche is job seekers. So regardless of industry, regardless of level, regardless of location, like my experience is, like job seekers tend to have the same issues, but they're different to an individual. So we help everybody. And one of the ways we do that is, I run a weekly workshop. It usually happens on Tuesdays. People can register through Win at Work. winatwork.io is our website. I almost forgot my website, winatwork.io. And you can register there. It's a free workshop and it's great. We do it every week and it helps a lot of people get hired fast.
Wonderful. Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.